here. There we go. So let me just go a bit closer in. So Brenda, you might have counted these up here. We don't normally count those. Let me just move this, isn't the way. There we go. So there is the last line of whiskers, and that is the spot. So I mean, if you could, that's 1, 2, 3 prominent spots there. And if we go across to the other side, again, there's the last line. So we don't count these spots up here that are at a different angle. We just count these ones that are right above that last line of whiskers, and that's also it's a 3. So he's a 3-3 spot pattern. We're gonna move a little bit so we can change the angle, see if we can get a shot of that very sweet face while he sleeps. I'm not gonna get rid of that. Morning, Blair from British Columbia. Welcome on the Sunrise Safari, Blair. Blair's got a question. He'd like to know, does Sindile's father help at all with the rearing of the cub? Not in the traditional sense, Blair. And it's very difficult to know who exactly the father is. It could be one of probably 4 different male leopards that his mother would have mated with. But what the dominant male in this area, which is Tingana, what he does is he keeps other male leopards out of this area, and if that male leopard had not mated with his mother, they would kill this cub. So that's how the males aid in sort of parenting. They protect the territory from other male leopards that would kill the cub to make the female go into estrus so they could mate with her, and that would produce an offspring that was sired by them. Well, we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to sit here with Sindile. Hopefully something interesting might happen, or Shadow might come back, or he might decide to start chasing something. In the meantime, we're going to cross across to Commander Bond, see what he's been up to this morning, and we'll be back with you and with Sindile a little later.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Djuma. Scott and I, in our very manly way, have changed the tyre like mechanics, and we're now moving towards Buffels Hoek waterhole, where we're hoping to find a great plethora of animals, teeming herds, but we'll see. It is quite a chilly morning, and so whether there's anything thirsty or not, I'm not sure. I hope you've been enjoying the leopard with Brent. That's very exciting. I'm very glad that they found Sindile again. We have not seen anything other than our hard labor since we last saw you. Here we are at the waterhole. Where there appears to be one hippopotamus. There he is. And a blacksmith lapwing. That old hippo is a very welcome guarantee at this waterhole. He seems to be here most of the time, which is great for us. Possibly not so great for him. He's probably a bit lonely. Poor fella. So on a cold morning like this, not a lot will probably come down to drink until it's a bit later in the day. It's still pretty chilly, despite the sort of fact that the sun has come up and is now warming our faces when we're not moving. A hippo, of course, has a very sort of sorry, excuse me one second. A hippo has a very thick layer of blubber around it, a bit like a whale might, to insulate it. It's not an easy thing maintaining sort of 37 degrees Celsius, or I think that's 98 Fahrenheit in the body if you're going to live in cold water. And so animals have developed incredible mechanisms for doing that, and more, not so much here because the hippo is the only animal that really needs to do it. But up in northern climes, polar bears, and I mean, if you think of walrus and those animals that live in the Arctic, mammals that live in the Arctic that swim about in freezing cold water all day long and manage to maintain some form of body temperature, is absolutely astonishing. I've yet to see this one out of the water. I think he's quite a nervous fellow, so he doesn't spend much time sunbathing. Right, I don't think we're going to hang around here for too long. We're going to carry on, see if we can pick up some tracks. At the moment, there seems to be not much going on tracks-wise, especially lion tracks-wise, which is what we were looking for earlier. So we're going to continue along, probably up towards the north along the boundary, and just see if those wild dogs didn't come across, and then we'll head down further south into Djuma. If there are any new viewers, welcome to you. We're very, very happy and grateful to have you along. Remember, you can send through any questions you like to #SafariLive or questions at WildEarthTV. They don't have to be questions, they can be comments or requests or whatever it is that you'd like to say to us. We'd love to hear from you. Renee, I've got a question from you. It's a good one. I'm going to answer it as soon as we've got through this little dip where the signal tends to be a little choppy. So stand by. We'll see you the other side. I hope you are still with us. Ramey, you want to know, has a hippo ever charged a vehicle? The answer is yes. I'm sure hippos have charged vehicles. I've never seen it happen myself. Scott, have you ever seen it?
No.
Scott's also not seen it. So hippo have a fearsome reputation, and they do kill more animals, more people in Africa than any other mammal does. The mosquito being having the dubious distinction of killing the most people. But that's only when you get between hippo and the water. They feel extremely vulnerable out of the water, and so if they feel like the safety of their water is being threatened, they will become quite dangerous quite quickly. I've never seen them charge a vehicle though. I mean, I'm sure it's happened maybe once or twice, but I've never seen it. We're just heading out onto the crest here. It's not too far from where we lost the dogs last night, going north, hopefully looking for a den. And we're going to keep our eyes out on all the termite mounds to see if they haven't perhaps excavated a little spot to stay. back in Florida, you've asked a question, I'm assuming with your tongue firmly in your cheek. What percentage of that waterhole, you said, is hippo dung? 70%? No, not nearly that much. Hippo, they will go to the loo in the water, but they also go to the loo quite a lot out of the water at night. I couldn't begin to guess what percentage of it is made of hippo dung, but given how much drinks out of the waterhole, I'm assuming not as much as it might look like. Sandy in New York, thank you for your request that we go to the hyena den. Scott and I did check it earlier this morning, and there wasn't any activity. We may well wind our way back there. We're at the opposite end of the property now, but we'll try and wind our way back down there and see what we can see a bit later on. We did check it very early this morning before we came to see you, or you came to see us. I'm not sure how it works if you're talking about the internet, but we did check it and there was no activity there. Even the birds seem to be hiding a little bit this afternoon, at least this morning.
I'm going for the wax ball.
Okay.
Where is it going?
Sorry, Scott is just trying to find you a blue wax bill.
I'm on it.
He's on it. There we go. We've got it. Oh, that's actually spectacularly well done. Just behind us, this buddy. These are not easy birds to try and find on a camera. And you've got a great view there of a little thing called a blue waxbill. Tiny little seed-eating bird with a sort of conical bill, like a finch, sort of an African finch, if you like. We do get sort of finch-type birds here, and that's one of them. And then there's a fork-tailed drongo sort of through in the distance there. Fascinating birds, those, because they are so aggressive. Whenever there's an eagle or a vulture or some other bird of prey sitting in a tree, you can be fairly sure that there'll be a vulture nearby mobbing it. So they fly up and bite them on the head and then disappear off, and fly up and bite them on the head, and they chase the eagles off. There was also a rattling testicular on one of these trees, but trying to film them is not unlike trying to film single atoms. Right, we'll just roll gently on down the hill. Very pleasant, peaceful morning that we have going now, especially after those elephants. I always feel slightly at peace after elephants. Joan in Arkansas, thank you very much for your question. It's a good one. Again, you want to know, are there many aardvark or aardvark in the area, ant bears? Probably because we don't see them, and to you they seem quite vulnerable. Joan, there's a leopard here that has killed, I think, 5 aardvark in the last 4 or 5 months. So the answer is yes, there are plenty of aardvark around. We don't see them much because they're deeply nocturnal. So they'll often only come out after sort of 10 o'clock at night. That's in areas where there's predator pressure like there is here. In the places like the Kalahari, you can often go and watch them. You can often go and get them, see them in the afternoons. They'll go out and they'll walk around in broad daylight and you can view them on foot, and it's really quite special. But they're definitely around here. We find their tracks and we find their holes and termite mounds where they excavate all the time. We've just got a hornbill there. I'm going to have a quick look at. So often find the hornbills sitting at the top of trees. They often feed on the ground, but on mornings like this, they'll sit at the top of trees where they can get as much sun as possible. The little chest feathers puffed out and trying to trap as much warm air under their down as they can. They're great value are the hornbills. They build lovely nests in tree holes which sound very cozy, but if they're not breeding, then they tend to stay out in the open. I'm just going to check what color the beak is here before I tell you a lie. It's a red-billed hornbill. Confused with the yellow-billed, and not really confused with the grey hornbill, which tends to be a different colour on the body. But we'll move gently along, see what other delights the wilderness has to offer us today. Well, for me right now, the warmth of the sun on my back is the greatest delight I've felt since we left this morning. And if we look, I'm just going to show you a picture when we get to the top here. If we look behind us, you can see this front moving in. The big bank of grey cloud coming in. Often dissipates when it gets to the low belt, but that's why we're feeling a little bit chilly today. Top of the hill here, and then I'll show you. And there have been apparently a number of questions as to why, if it is so cold, I am not wearing long pants. There are two simple answers to that question. Sorry, Scott, I'm just going to do a 90-degree here. The first one is the most obvious one, and that is that I don't have any. I didn't bring any with me when I came down. There you can just see the bank of cloud. It's just creating some beautiful polarized light. But the bank of cloud is starting to build up in the east there, and it's coming from the southeast. And it does seem to be dissipating slightly as it comes, but it might come over later this afternoon. And Scott, I don't know if you can. I'm not sure if it'll be seeable or not, but you can see those clouds moving up top, over the top of us. We might be able to get those. Yeah. I also have very hairy legs. Which is why my legs stay relatively warm. And when we say it's cold, you must understand that. I mean, compared with the cold that people at higher latitudes experience, it's really not that bad. We're being a bit, we're not being particularly stoic about it. And that's beautiful. Look at those clouds. Those are those sort of icy cirrus clouds, little sort of crystals of ice moving over the top. very beautiful watching a weather pattern like that come up. So while we sit here and contemplate the magnificence of this cold front blowing in over us, and the power that must be driving it, we're going to go across to the inimitable Brent, who is still with the Shadows Cub, and we're going to see what he's up to at the moment. We'll see you just now.
Welcome back, everyone. As you can see, not much has changed here. We're still sitting with Sindile, and we're hoping he might get up and start playing a little bit, but it doesn't look like it, so we'll spend a few more minutes with him here. And then you guys, who know how this works, but for those of you who don't, you are able to interact with us via email and Twitter. And the email address is questions@wildearth.tv, and just use the hashtag Safari Live on if you're on Twitter. But we've been sitting here for quite a while and he hasn't done anything, so we'll leave it up to you guys to decide whether we should spend some more time with Sindile in his fetal position, or we should move on and see what else we can find on this wonderfully beautiful cold morning here. At the moment I'm on Arathusa Private Game Reserve, and you can let us know whether we should move on or stay, and via email, and the email address is questions@wildearth.tv, or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. I'm just going to reposition the vehicle so we can have a different view for a little bit, and you guys just let me know. Hi, Liz from Wisconsin. Liz would like to know if I have any idea what his weight is. Just hang on, Liz, I'll just jump up and go pick him up quickly. No, I'm only playing. Liz, at this age, I'm guessing he probably weighs around 40 kilograms, maybe a little bit less. I'm just going to try see if there's a spot where we can get a slightly better view. I'd guess around 40 to 50 kilograms. Liz, maybe even a little bit less at the moment. I think we might be able to get a view of his face. There we go. Very still, cold morning. Not many birds chirping, but it is warming up quite nicely now. I might start abandoning certain layers. I'm a bit nervous though, so maybe not just yet. And enjoying being able to sit in the sun, basking like a lizard, while watching this beautiful young male leopard. His ears are always moving, and he is conscious of what is happening around him and listening carefully. Hi, Christy from Oklahoma. Christy would like to know, would he ever actually go hunting with his mother? He'd probably try if he shouted at. Sometimes, and it also again depends completely on the individual leopards. Some female leopards will take their offspring hunting with them, and then as they go into that sort of final moments of the stalk, they will sort of give them a vocal command that tells them to stay put. But so far we haven't seen Shadow do that, and that's just different leopards do different things. We cannot put a general rule on all leopards, doing the same things. Morning, Georgian in Illinois. Welcome on the Sunrise Safari. We're sitting here with Sindile, a young male leopard of about 8.5 months now. Georgian would like to know, at what age are leopards considered sub-adults? Excuse me. Well, I would probably guess when they are independent from their parent, and that, as I said, depends on the individual leopard. They can be independent at as young as 8 months, 9 months old, but generally with male leopards it's about 22 months, and with female leopards a little bit less, probably 16 months, between 14 and 16 months, just depending on the individual. And they reach sexual maturity at about 2.5 to 4 years old, depending on the individual, and that is probably when you could start considering them an adult, even a young adult. So 2.5 to 4 years old. Well, very, very big welcome to a new viewer named Djuma. Welcome on the Sunrise Safari with Wild Earth and National Geographic Safari Live. Djuma just saying thanks for a spotty cat welcome on her first drive. Well, thanks very much, Djuma. I hope you join us for the Sunset Safari as well. Morning, Ginny from Dallas. Ginny would like to know, if a female leopard mates with 4 different males, do each of the male leopards think that it is their cub? That's the idea, Ginny. It's to confuse them. Any male leopard that might possibly wander into her home range or territory, she will try and mate with, and even sometimes under false estrus, and that is to try convince them that if they do come across cubs of hers in her home range, that they are the father. So that's why it's very difficult to determine who the father of leopard cubs are. We can always have an idea, and in a lot of cases it is the dominant male of the area, but in a lot of cases it's not, and the only way to actually tell for sure would be to take genetic samples from each of the males she mated with and from the cub, and then compare that way, and that's the only way to be sure about who a leopard's dad really is. Good morning, Heidi from Zurich. Heidi would like to know how many leopards we have in this region. Heidi, we're quite lucky in this region. We have quite a lot of leopards, but also we have a lot of habituated leopards. Habituated is not to get confused with tame. They are still very much wild animals. They are just used to the presence of vehicles. That is habituated. Heidi, let me just work this out. So in terms of leopards, we see regularly on the female front, the two most regular leopards we see are Karula and Shadow. Shadow is Karula's daughter, and this is her cub. So that's 3: Shadow, Karula, Sindile. We have a dominant male in this area named Tingana, which we see quite regularly. Then across from Djuma we have another dominant male called Mvula, which we see quite regularly. And up until recently we used to see Karula's 2 young males who are about 28 months old now, Quarantine and Kunuma, quite regularly. There's an update on them. They have been seen just to the south of us. Actually yesterday and last night Sean saw Kunuma in Little Gowrie, which is the property directly south of Djuma. So they are still within the vicinity, so we're on 7 now. And then we saw another young female leopard, which was the first time for me seeing it recently, right on our eastern boundary, and I think that name was Shavula. And so that's 7. And then another female we have seen here is what was her name? Kwatile, but she was moving out of territory to mate with Mvula. But I have seen her again since then at the southern end of the Arathusa airstrip, and then I think Scott's seen Bahuti once. So there's a possibility of about 10 different individuals that we can see, but I would say that we regularly see at the moment is... Actually, at the moment, we're not even seeing Karula very much, so I would say Shadow, Sindile, Tingana, and Mvula at the moment are the most common leopards we see. And so that's 4 that we see very regularly, and that's just been for the last month or so. And that can change very quickly, and we might start seeing other leopards as well. Oh, this is a comfy cat. Well, we're going to do the same as Sindile. We're going to get comfy where we're sitting right here. So the general consensus is that everyone would like us to stay a bit longer, but there's also been some requests to go check the hyena den. But this is the wonderful thing about working in the team, and we've just decided we'll send Commander Bond to check the hyena den. So James is going to go check the hyena den now, so hopefully you guys get some action around there, and we'll stay right here doing the same as Sindile, enjoying the morning sunlight, and we'll be back with you a little later in drive.
Welcome back everyone to Djuma. Scott is just focusing in there on this bank of clouds. Ooh, that noise you can hear is the crowned lapwings that have just been attacked by a gabbard goshawk. There he is, he's coming in now. Yeah, it's very difficult to follow. And he's a little sort of predatory accipiter that will come and take birds off the ground or out of trees. He's like a sort of hawk, if you like. But what Scott was focusing on there is this building bank of cloud, which since you last saw us only about 10 minutes ago, has built up enormously. So there's a huge coming through here. My parents, who live down in the Eastern Cape, have been shivering cold and rain for the last 3 days, and I think that's what we're catching the end of now. We're going to head off towards the hyena den, where we can perhaps pick up on some old scavengers basking in the sun. It would be nice, I think, if Brent stays with the leopard cub for now, just in case he moves and does something interesting. It's not going to be a hot day, so it might be worth one of us just hanging around him, and then the other driving about and exploring and seeing what else we can find. So we're going to go first of all to the old hyena den where Byron showed you the warthogs backing into it yesterday, and see if they haven't reclaimed their home. And then we'll go back to the one we checked earlier this morning. You can see in front of me there the leaden skies. There's something quite awe-inspiring about a leaden sky, especially out here, where we normally don't see them this time of year. In South Bend, Indiana. I've not heard of South Bend before. I hope it's a nice place for you to live. I wager not quite as nice as the place we live. But you want to know, if the animals are cold, are they less active? Yes, some are. Some will definitely try and curl up and stay warm, but often the best way for them to stay warm is to stay active. So they'll rush around and eat as much as they can, because they lose heat, obviously. Maintaining heat costs a lot physiologically, so they have to maintain their eating. But certainly some animals will become slightly less active. They'll go into thicker bush, I think, rather than become less active. Certainly the birds, when it's cold like this, will sit out on top of the trees or huddle together, fly around to stay warm. So the hyena den is not too far from here. In fact, we'll probably check the new one, or the new old one first, and then check the one where the warthogs were. We're closer to that one. Abshin Kalan. Sifaman Jan Beton Zamin. I'm wanang home. Okay. Davonan. Oh, okay. So those fellows have seen some hyena tracks only, nothing else. I was hoping maybe they'd seen a few cat tracks, but not. You may be able to see from where you're sitting now, the light is starting to fade a bit as this bank comes blasting over us. I hate to think how cold it must be up there. Definite sense of anticipation about the bush this morning. Not sure why. Where Scott and I came very early this morning, just before we saw you, and we're now arriving at the hyena den.
I'm seeing the picture flashing on and off on my picture. Yeah, James, just to let you know. All right.
In Virginia Beach. Welcome and thank you for your question. You'd like to know what birds do I look most forward to seeing. I think Well, it depends on the day, really. I love the colors of things like a green-backed Pytilia or green-winged Pytilia, which is sort of red and green, little finch-like bird. And it's always impressive to see things like a Batellier in full flight, or even a big vulture in full flight, soaring high above everything else. So it just depends how I'm feeling. I've always found tremendous peace from watching sort of in the midday heat, from lying down on the ground and feeling the grass underneath me. And then, so there are no hyenas here at the moment, so we'll check the other den site. And lying down and feeling the grass underneath me and enjoying the fresh air, and then watching vultures way up high, so high that I can't even tell what kind of vultures they are. Just floating on the thermals. It's always given me a tremendous sense of peace. So there are no hyenas here. We'll pop along to the other den that was usurped the other day by the warthogs. If they aren't there are two options. One is that they've moved the den.
Getting major problems on my screen now.
And the other is that they have decided that the cubs are old enough for them not to need a den anymore. So they may have just moved on. But we'll go and see. See that astonishingly blue sky as we travel along. We might be going through some signal difficulties here, so if you lose us, we're very sorry about that. We're still at the infancy of understanding exactly how the weather and the solar flares and the space debris are able to affect our transmissions to you over the vastness of space. Some hyena tracks around here. How are you doing, Scott?
I can see the monitors fine, but my screen's very fuzzy, black and white, Blair Witch Project.
All right. And listen here for a second and maybe get a picture if we can. Scotty, can you get that orchid?
Yeah.
So what you're hearing now is a beautiful bird called the black-headed oriole. It's a green bird, not a green bird at all. It's a yellow bird. And that Scott is focusing on now is called a leopard orchid. Now the leopard orchid is quite an important orchid to me because there is a very important traditional use. And given my current state of singleness, what I need to do is to go and climb that tree, probably not now because I'll just embarrass myself. Pick a few of the stalks And apparently what you then do is to chew them in the light of the full moon and say the name of the one you want, and she will immediately begin to think of you. I have to confess that the orchids of this area have taken a bit of a hammering since my arrival, as I have attempted to make the traditional use work. As of yet, I am unsold on the idea because I remain in a state of celibate singleness, and that is just how it is out here in the wild. But I shall keep trying to eat the leopard orchid, Ancilia gigantica is what it's called, and mostly I think you possibly have to wait till it flowers before the traditional use will work, and that'll come sort of at Christmas time, just before Christmas, which is really nice to see. Beautiful yellow flowers with brown spots on them, and that's why it's called the leopard orchid. And I'm afraid the oriole has flown off. I did see him scudding by, but I will show you a picture of him. Oriole 320. We get 3 oriole species here, but only one of them at this time of the year. The other 2 migrate. So there they are. And this chap here with his black head is the black-headed oriole. The most beautiful one to me is the African golden oriole there. And he's just this incredible flash of gold and yellow. Beautiful, beautiful bird when we see him. And the Eurasian golden oriole is most easily identified by those black wings as he flies over. Flash of gold and black. The black-headed is the most common, and here all the time. Very nice, beautiful liquid call. That was an appalling rendition of an oriole call. I'll have to work on my oriole call for you. John in California, thank you for your question about shoebills and whether we find them in this area. John, or large shoebills, we don't find large or small shoebills here. They're found mainly in sort of Zambia and north of that as far as I'm aware, so we don't find them here. Closer to sort of the Central Africa, I'm afraid. I don't think we even have anything that's related to a shoebill here. The troubles on our vehicle continue to happen as Scott has now leapt off the back of the car to try and reattach the aerial, which I managed to bash off. So we're a tyre down, most of an aerial down. Scott can barely see a picture. Such is the life of live broadcast out of the African wilderness. We can't really pop down to the shops for some new parts. Light on the lilac breasted roller there. Don in California, you want to know if these Orioles are related to the Baltimore Orioles. Are they not a sports team? I know there's a sports team somewhere in the United States called the Orioles. I'm not sure what sport they play. So the answer is no. I think you get some form of bird in the States called an Oriole as well. They may be loosely related. It's unlikely that they're too closely related, though, given the separation of the Atlantic. So were we in South America, for example, and looking at Orioles, the chances of them being related to others in North America would be that much stronger. So sometimes what happens is that we give similar names to things because they look quite similar, but they don't necessarily have any biological relationship. Hello Anne on Twitter, you want to know if that Ancelia or orchid is part of the tree. No, it's not. It's called an epiphyte, which means that it lives on the tree but doesn't have any real effect on it. So it doesn't seem to denude the tree of nutrients at all. Apparently they can live almost entirely off the air to start with, and then they create like a basket where they collect dead leaves and plants and water, and that's how they survive. So they're not part of the tree, they're just kind of living on it. So an epiphyte is a kind of a symbiotic relationship or mutualistic relationship where they don't actually affect each other. On Twitter, thank you for your comment, but you're suggesting that perhaps my methods with the Ancelia or orchid are not correct, and that I should be giving it to her rather than eating it in the light of the full moon while dancing around in a circle. Ramey, I think you might actually have a point. So when it flowers, I might do that. I think if I were to hand her a couple of canes from they're called canes, the branches from the orchid, if I were to hand her a couple of smelly canes, I don't think she'd be particularly impressed. So we're now heading towards that hyena den, the old one that was usurped by the pigs. Scott is back on the vehicle, which is a great encouragement to me. And I'm not seeing any hyenas. Maybe inside, curled up, they may be elsewhere. I'm not seeing them here, I'm afraid. Nor am I seeing any pigs. Nor am I seeing any fresh hyena tracks. Just drive around here briefly. Hyenas are absent without our leave. So I've had some wonderful feedback from Marianne, and you say that you do, I think you've sent a picture of an oriole, which you get in your garden, and I think Anne also. So that's from California and from Arkansas. We've got orioles, so thank you very much for that. And we're going to cross over to Brent and see how he's doing with Sindile, and we'll be back with you shortly, I'm sure.
Welcome back. As you can see, he's still enjoying siesta. Just picked his head up there and we heard a rattling testicular calling, just making sure there was nothing untoward on the way. And the sun's gone a little bit, so he's getting a bit cold and curling up again into that very cute position. So just a quick update if you guys have signed in late, or you might possibly be a new viewer with us here at Safari Live. You are sitting on the back of my game drive vehicle watching a young male leopard named Sindile and on Arathusa Private Game Reserve, which is part of the Sabi Sands Reserve, which is then part of the Greater Kruger National Park, a mass of unfenced area where animals are able to roam and fulfill out their natural obligations. We've spent quite a lot of this morning tracking this young male in the beginning, and since he's been found, we've been sitting here. So we are live. You are seeing this male leopard at the exact same time as we are. We also are interactive, so you can ask us questions about this leopard or about the bush that surrounds us, and you can do that by emailing questions@WildEarthTV or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. It has been a bitterly cold morning, and the sun seems to have disappeared as this cold front is moving on. The sun was so nice earlier, I actually took off my jacket, but I didn't last very long before I popped it straight back on. Oh, there's a little yawn. You can see he looks a little bit less comfortable now that the sun's disappeared, which might prompt him to move, you never know. But he will definitely stay in this area. He's been left here by his mother while his mother's gone out hunting, and she could return in the next 10 minutes. She could return in 2 days' time, and so that is quite common behavior for leopards, to leave the youngsters while they are out hunting, because at this age he's more of a hindrance than a help. Trying to get that comfy spot. Hi Lulu, welcome on Sunrise Safari. Lulu would like to know, can he sleep in trees? Most definitely, Lulu, but a lot of leopards prefer to sleep on the ground. It's more comfortable. They'll only generally sleep in a tree if they have a kill in the tree, or if they're feeling pressure from other predators like hyenas and lions or wild dogs. Hi, Dear from Miami. Dear would like to know, in domestic cats, it is possible for a female cat to be impregnated by 2 different males and have kittens in the same litter from different individuals, and she would like to know if this is possible in the bigger cats. As far as I know, that doesn't happen in leopard, but I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't. But in lions it does happen. You can have different fathers in the same litter, but I'm not 100% sure on leopards. I'll just have a quick look in my mammal Bible, but as far as I know, it is not a thing that happens in leopards. So I don't have anything in my big book, so maybe you guys can check for me. Is it possible for a leopard offspring to have 2 different fathers in the same litter? You can send your answers to questions at WildEarthTV, or you can use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So apparently you guys are getting some wonderful screenshots. I'm very happy. It has been quite a beautiful sighting, especially a little bit earlier when we had that wonderful morning light. So I hear there's been a bit of banter in the Twitter sphere regarding a little competition. James, Commander Bond, Henry and myself had a few days ago. We had a bird competition to see which vehicle could identify the most bird species during a drive. And when we mean identify, we had to actually be able to show them on camera so you guys could actually get a good look at them, not us identifying calls and whatnot. We actually had to physically show the birds on camera. Oh, stretching. And at the end of that, I won, of course, thank you, but James came a bit short, and we happened to be very close by when towards the end of drive, so we decided we should gloat a little bit, and as James described, I sat in the vehicle next to him smiling like a Cheshire cat. James then decided he wasn't going to be able to cook breakfast for me that morning, or even stomach his own breakfast, and so people are wondering whether he did cook breakfast. He didn't cook breakfast. James has very similar eating habits to the birds, and he tends to eat seeds and whatnot for breakfast, whereas I lean far towards a good solid fry up. But he did cook us dinner a night or two ago, and fortunately there was no bark in the dinner. I think that is solely because he had to cook for all of us. If it had just been me, I would have been far more cautious. I think he might have come up with something a bit worse than bark. There's lots of trees here that are natural laxatives, and James does know his trees very well, so I do keep an eye on what he gives me. Hi, Reme. Thanks for another question, this Sunrise Fire Reme. Reme is wondering if anyone was able to track Tingana after he was seen by Byron yesterday morning. Well, Reme, unfortunately not. Scott did walk that whole drainage line yesterday trying to find him without any luck, and then Scott and I were going back in that area to try to see if we could find tracks, and we got that panicked call over the radio of wild dogs, and I'm afraid with me behind the wheel there was little chance of us looking for a leopard with wild dogs on the property. So then Scott and I rushed off to go see if we could find the wild dogs and help James stay with them in case they veered off. So no one was able to find Tingana yesterday. Nearby where I found the tracks of Shadow and Sindile, there were tracks of an adult male heading south, and that could possibly have been Tingana, but we didn't follow up on those tracks as the female and Shadow and Sindile's tracks were more fresh from this morning as opposed to those from the male, which were probably from last night at some point. Oh, this weather is looking slightly foreboding. If you want to have a look at the clouds, and you can see how this cold front is setting in. I'm just going to get Phil to have a look. The clouds are setting in above us, but there are some gaps still above us. But if we look further to our west, we can see there's a blue sky, quite a long way off now, and we were sitting under that wonderful blue sky, but now it has left us, and there you can see that cold front moving to the west. Hi, Djuma. Thanks again for the question. Djuma is one of our new viewers, so always exciting to have new viewers. We love having new viewers as much as we love all our old viewers, our regulars. Djuma would like to know, with this cold front coming in, is it possibly going to bring some rain, and how much water is around? Djuma, it's unlikely, looking at this cold front, that it's going to bring any rain. We are very much a summer rainfall area, not to say that we don't occasionally get the odd winter rain, but I don't think this is going to bring any rain. It's quite high, and I don't feel that much moisture in the air. But in terms of water, the water is drying up quite quickly. We are sort of, what are we now? June. So we're in the middle of our dry season, and it's going to keep getting drier from now. And quite a lot of the water is going to dry up. And from a game viewing point of view, that's quite good for us because it makes the animals far more centralized on the remaining water points, and also that forces a lot of the prey species to drink there, so the predators also gravitate towards the remaining water, which from a pure game viewing point of view is wonderful. It makes the animals a lot easier for us to find, but I don't think there's going to be any rain. But thanks for the question. So this young leopard is still a very much flat cat, so we're going to cross over to Commander Bond, see what he's been up to, and we'll be back with you a little bit later.
Welcome back to Djuma, everyone. We have checked another 2 places where the hyenas might be. They were not there. So we've come now to the waterhole, Gari waterhole, to see if we can't find some form of mammal life. We did see some monkeys running across the end of the dam wall, so we're going to go and see if we can see them. We've also apparently, one of our observant zoomies saw some nyala, but they seem to have disappeared into the bush. Selfish things are the nyala. The monkeys were just at the end of the wall here. I find them tremendously entertaining to watch, so we'll see if we can't find them.
There goes one.
There goes the monkey. There's a little monkey. Oh, he's going at such... So, while we're looking at these monkeys, I just want to tell you and apologize for our technical difficulties. Scott is normally an extremely competent cameraman, but he's currently looking at a screen that looks as if it's taken an LSD trip. So he's struggling to focus and zooming quite quickly because of that. Sorry about that. Now, the vervet monkey is one of only 2 monkey species we get in South Africa, the other being something called a Somango monkey, which tends to live more in forested areas than it does in the savannah. And in terms of primates, we also have the galagos or bush babies, and that's it for Southern Africa. But there are far more monkeys as we move up into East Africa with all the colobus monkeys and various others, and the mangabes, I think they're in Ethiopia, which are like baboons. Baboons, of course, we have here too. And there are a whole lot more coming here. And then, of course, into the rainforest, we have our closest relatives, the chimpanzees, the bonobos, and the great gorillas. And these vervets live in sort of very closely knit troops, dominated by a big male, and the babies will find that it's almost like watching children or teenagers at a school. When you look at them, they establish a very definite social hierarchy that's based quite largely on bullying and physical prowess, but there is an element of sort of thoughtful manipulation about it, not quite like it is with the chimpanzees, but you can sort of see, if you watch them closely enough, you can see the machinations of their social thinking. Quite similar to a baboon troop in many ways. And they easily become a menace in tourism if people start to feed them. So they're very afraid of people as long as we stop feeding them. That's beautiful. We've got a lovely question from Ramey, who was on drive with Scott the other day when he found a single baboon on quarantine clearings. Ramey, the baboon hasn't been seen again, as far as I'm aware. Probably a young male. Scott, was it a male?
Yeah.
So a young male that has been excluded from his troop because he's probably got to the age where he needs to go and find another troop. So he will now go and find another troop and hang on the fringes of it until he becomes tolerated, and then he will join that troop, and with any luck for him, he'll become a big strong baboon one day and perhaps dominate the troop. These monkeys are very peaceful, and you can see them now starting to do a bit of allo grooming, helping each other. In fact, I think she's suckling. Is she suckling now?
I can't see anything. I can't even see if I'm in focus.
All Scott can see is psychedelic colors, which of course these monkeys are not. No, that's very sweet. They're just sort of sitting there, huddling against the cold, on a branch that you and I wouldn't touch with our hands, let alone put our soft bottoms on. So they've been having their breakfast. The mother is the female. He's definitely suckling there. That's wonderful. Looks a bit big for that though. Often spend time with monkeys like this, you know. Especially from the lodges, you know, we used to see them in the camps all the time. They became a total menace because people, despite endless instructions not to feed them, would hand them bits of muffin or biscuit or eggs or fruit or whatever it was, and suddenly find themselves with 2 neat puncture marks in their hands. But out here, where that doesn't happen, they really are very fascinating to watch, and it's so interesting to me how the closer you get to human beings, so the closer you get to the chimpanzee, the more like human beings they actually behave. They're tremendously fearful of us until they learn that we're slower than them, not quite as strong as them, and especially when they learn that we're actually quite afraid of them, then they become quite menacing. The vervet monkey occurs almost throughout South Africa, except in the desert regions. And in Durban, for example, which is, a major city on the east coast of South Africa, they occur right into the suburbs. So we're just about to cross over back to the inimitable and excitable Brent Leo Smith. Thank you very much for being with us today. It's been, I think, an absolutely beautiful drive, a chilly drive. We're still dressed in our winter woolies, Scott and I, and there's wonderful elephants in that golden dawn light, which is really spectacular to see. And we've just had some great scenery and some great peace, and it's been a real privilege answering your questions and having your comments. So thank you very much for them. We're going to cross over to Brent for the last little while, and you can enjoy that sleeping leopard and his golden pelage, while Scott and I make our way home for a bit of breakfast. I believe Brent was insulting my breakfast the other day. He said that I didn't cook him breakfast. I did offer him some of my seeds and nuts and goji berry mix, but that he turned his nose up to it, I feel is his problem. So I'm going to ask him to do better today. So we'll cross over to him. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Scott on the camera, Nikki and Eugene in the control room, and we'll see you later this afternoon.
Welcome back, everyone. We've tried to reposition to get a slightly better view of this flat cat, and all we're getting is an ear, and that's really cool because we can actually see how that ear moves now. So it just zoomed, it sort of panned around to listen to that rattling testicular, and obviously he's conscious of all the different noises around him. There you see it move, working like a sort of radar dish, picking up different sounds. Let's see if we move a little bit forward, maybe we can see a bit more of his face. So, been sitting up for the last few minutes to drive. Thanks very much, Sindile. Very kind of you. It's been a wonderful morning. Nice tracking in that really fresh early morning. Nice with the dust. The tracks are standing out quite nicely, and we've been lucky enough to spend the majority of the morning with this wonderful young male leopard, Sindile. And he hasn't done much, sat on a termite mound for the whole time we've been here, but still wonderful to be able to spend as much time as we do with these animals. Phil and myself have thoroughly enjoyed being out, and I know you guys would have had fun with James and Scott. And yes, I hear James was chatting about his birdseed. I'm afraid I'm going to leave the birdseed to James. I'm definitely going to go for more of the bacon and egg for breakfast, especially on a cold morning like this. And It's been great having you guys on the Sunrise Safari. It's been an absolute privilege to be able to share our love and passion for the African wildlife with you. So I'm going to say goodbye, and then for the last little bit we'll go back onto the young leopard, because I'm sure you'd much rather look at him than at me. So guys, thanks very much. Have a wonderful day or morning or evening wherever you are in the world, and hopefully you join us for the sunset safari, and we'll be out hopefully on the tracks of big cats again. I'm pretty sure I'm going to come have a look again for this young guy, and maybe Shadow has come back. So for the last few seconds we're going to have a look at that young male leopard sitting on the termite mound.